Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see what if Naruto had Swift release Bloodline part 2. Hope you will enjoy the video. If you do, then please subscribe to my channel. So let's begin the video.
The next day Naruto was up before dawn, as he prepared for the day ahead. After eating, bathing, and dressing he did his usual 10 laps around the village. That took him all of an hour, which made him happy, as his normal speed was really improving. Then he used his Jinten Muishim Swift Release Shadowless Flight. He did another 20 in 2.5 minutes. To anyone watching it would look like he had only taken a couple of steps forward before falling to his knees a few minutes later panting for no reason. Then after a 10-minute break he began exercises designed to build up his strength. Thanks to his Kekkei Genkai he would never be a powerhouse like Might Guy, but that didn't mean he wanted to be a total weakling either. Thanks to all the push-ups, sit-ups, squats, use of regular civilian weights, and swimming, not to forget all the running he did, Naruto had a body he was sure most civilians would die for. He was both lean and slightly muscular, with the extra definition showing in his abs, pecs, arms, and legs. After swimming a few last laps around a pond in Training Ground 3, Naruto watched as the sun began to rise from between two mountains, bathing the area in an orange glow that reminded Naruto of just why orange was his favorite color, even if he no longer wore his childhood favorite orange jumpsuit. Naruto still wore orange, it just wasn't visible anymore, as he hid it underneath the blues, greens, blacks, and tans of his everyday clothes or shinobi attire. Looking at the rising sun, Naruto relaxed, as he floated on his back for a bit before his day would truly start. An hour later Naruto was in his team's usual training ground, Training Ground 23. He had arrived a little early to think about how he would go about asking his sensei for information on elemental manipulation. His thoughts were broken, as his teammates and sensei came into view. They weren't really surprised to see the whiskered blonde already at the training grounds, because it happened quite a bit already. Alright team, show me how far you have gotten with the tree climbing exercise. If you can make it to the top I might teach you something else, before we do another mission, Hayama says. An hour later Fuki had finally reached the top, but Hayama made her continue going up and down the tree, which she did 10 times before needing to stop. Naruto had also made it to the top, and on Hayama's orders kept going up and down the tree 20 times before Hayama told him to switch up and try walking on his hands. This had the effect of adding more difficulty, as now Naruto had to split his focus between maintaining his chakra and balance at the same time. Temeru however was still working on completing the exercise. He didn't have Naruto's reserves, actually he had less chakra than Fuki, whose reserves were big for a girl her age. His reserves were about average, but it was clear it would take another day or two for him to catch up to Fuki and Naruto. Alright guys and girls, he added, feeling Fuki's glare at his back. Bring it in. That's enough of that for today, but I encourage all of you to work on your chakra control when you are alone. I know I gave each of you a list of exercises, but remember to be careful and not to jump ahead. These might just be chakra control exercises, but even the simple ones can be dangerous if you don't do them right or goof around. Hayama lectures. All three nodded, but inwardly groaned, as he had been telling them that every day since they started on the tree climbing exercise. Alright, Temeru, you still seem to be having trouble with the exercise. If you need some help you can always come to me or ask one of your teammates. I am sure they would both be willing to help you out, Hayama says. Temeru looks at both of his squad mates. Fuki gave him a nod, and Naruto gave him a thumbs up with a big grin spread across his face, which Temeru returned. Thank you sensei, but I'll be alright. I just need a little more practice, and I'll have it down cold, or I won't be the next Hokage. Temeru responds confidently. Hayama had to chuckle at the boy. He certainly got a spirited group, and he had no doubts a talented group. It was something that bothered him when he had time to reflect on his group's growth since they began training. Fuki was well on her way to being solid all-around Kunoichi. She might never be the next Tsunade, but with time she had the makings of a solid Tokage, perhaps even a full Chunin if she put her mind to it. Temeru could be a bit over the top, a dreamer, and had more energy than he knew what to do with at times, but he was a good kid, and was willing to listen when you could get him to calm down. He admired how persistent the boy was. It didn't matter if he failed to get something or not because he would keep working hard until he did. Temeru might never become Hokage, but Hayama was sure the boy was on his way to being a good solid ninja. Naruto decided now was a good time to ask his question. Hayama-sensei, could you teach me elemental manipulation? Naruto asked. That would be so cool, can you sensei? Temeru shouted over his failure to get the tree walking. Hayama looked at his genin, and noticed even Fuki looked interested in learning how to manipulate her elements. That's something that's usually reserved for Chunin, or those who have been in service for several years, Hayama says. He then notices the slightly downtrodden looks on their faces. But there is nothing that says I can't teach you elemental manipulation. He was cut off from further speech by an excited Naruto. Thank you so much sensei. I promise I'll do my best, and listen to everything Naruto says excitedly. Hayama had to hold in his chuckle at Naruto's display of emotion. The boy was far from an emo, but without Temeru around he was very reserved. The only group he had seen, as reserved as Naruto had been so far, were the Aburums, and he wouldn't admit it, but that clan secretly creeped him out. Whoa. Hold up there, Naruto. I am not going to teach you guys something as advanced as elemental manipulation yet. It's something that could take years, even a decade, before you get a complete grasp of it. But you said. I said that there was no rule or law that said I could not teach you elemental manipulation. You are getting ahead of yourself here, Naruto. You have only been genin for 8 days, and you want to jump to something even genin finds difficult to learn, Hayama says, admonishing not only Naruto, but all of them. The looks on their faces told him they got it, but still wanted to learn. That said, I will give each of you a challenge. If you finish the scroll of chakra control exercises I gave each of you, and complete each mission we have without fail, I'll teach you the first stages for manipulating your element. And I'll even let you see what element you have right now, Hayama says. The kids all jumped to attention, eager to find out. Naruto was disappointed at not being able to learn it all right now, but he was happy his sensei said he would if they showed him they could handle it. And he was going to learn what his element was, so maybe he can snag a few low levels to work on in his own time anyway. Unfortunately, I don't have the means to test you with me, so we'll have to find out tomorrow, Hayama says, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. All three genin groaned at their sensei, but the man just pushed on, ignoring the sour looks he was receiving. Anyway, we still have that mission to get to, and remember, it all counts towards me teaching you about your elements, Hayama says, getting them to focus. Hi, sensei, they said in unison. With that, Team 4 left the training grounds, and went to get their second D-rank mission. This time it was painting an old man's fence. Afterwards, Naruto would leave his team, and continue his bloodline, and other training until it was dark out, and he would head home. This would be the way the next month would pass with little change. During the month, all members of Team 4 had managed to complete the tree climbing practice, as well the water surface walking practice. Hayama even had them combine both with the leaf concentration practice they learned at the academy, and when they got that, he made them do both while doing battle simulations against each other for an hour, and then him. In the end, he could say without fail Team 4 had mastered all 3 of the basic chakra control practices, but he made sure they started every day continuing their practice, and even gave them tips on how to enhance all 3 practices individually. This really helped Naruto and Fuki the most, as they both had large reserves, with Naruto having the most of any genin or chunin he could recall, but he knew there were chunin that held less chakra than Naruto. Temeru wasn't to be left out though. Thanks to all the practice he did with his team, and at home when he could get away from his family, his reserves had grown. He now could keep up with his teammates in all of the exercises, and still have enough chakra to not be totally drained. As a reward for their hard work, and having successfully completed all 3 practices, Hayama began them on the road to nature manipulation, by showing them what their elements were. Naruto had a strong affinity for wind, which surprised Hayama, since wind users were rare in Konoha, with there only being him, and Sarutobi Asuma. However, Naruto also had a strong affinity for water, which further surprised Hayama, since he knew there were few people with 2 strong elemental affinities. He wondered if perhaps Naruto might have one, but decided to hold off on such thinking, as he hadn't seen any signs of him having one. Fuki had an earth nature, which Hayama thought suited the girl's personality. It was Temeru that delivered a second surprise, as he also had an affinity for wind, although not as strong as Naruto's. Having 2 wind users on his squad definitely surprised Hayama, and made him further believe he made the right decision in passing this team. With their natures known, Hayama taught Fuki and Naruto 2 for their elements, and Temeru 1. Temeru was upset, but Hayama explained that the wind's nature was almost exclusively offensive, and therefore most of the he knew of were B ranked or higher. And there was only 1 C rank he could teach him. Temeru quieted down after that, as at least he was getting to learn a C rank, and his teammates would also only get 1 C rank, and at rank. Naruto, after listening to how air wind element techniques were, decided to for now focus on his water nature, and come back to wind later. So Hayama gave Naruto 2 Kurigakure no Jutsu hiding in mist technique, and Mizubunshin no Jutsu water clone technique. He gave Fuki the Doten Shinjusanshu no Jutsu earth release, double suicide decapitation technique, and Doten Dachikaijo no Jutsu earth release, underground projection fish technique. Temeru received Futon the Toppa wind release, great breakthrough, along with instructions on how to strengthen the technique. He also made each of them aware that when they became chunin, they would have access to higher ranking techniques in the shinobi section of the library, but that he would teach them a C rank technique if or when he thought they merited it. He actually planned to teach them 1 more after their first C-rank mission, but he didn't feel the need to tell them that, as he knew they would then beg to go on 1 sooner than he felt they were ready for. As it was, he felt they were close, and would wait a few more weeks before asking for 1. 2 weeks after Team 4 began working on elemental techniques, Hayama deemed them ready for their first C-rank mission. He wouldn't pick anything too difficult for his team, but rather something to ease them into the danger of being a shinobi. After completing their morning practices and exercises, Hayama took them to the academy building to complete their mission. Walking into the administrative side, they went to the mission assignment desk to report in. They found the Hokage along with 5 Chunin and Yumino Ruka, Team 4's former academy instructor, handing a mission to an older team of shinobi. When they were done, Team 4 stepped up. Team 4 reporting for a C-rank mission. Hokage-sama Hayama says. Ah, sure Kumu-san, so you believe they are ready for the first serious mission, then? Sandy asks. Yes Hokage-sama, I was thinking about a hunting mission perhaps. It would allow my team to ease into taking more difficult missions mixed in with the occasional D-rank. Hayama responds. Okay, I think there is something here that would work for your team. Iruka, if you could find the scroll for the Nara mission request. The Hokage directs the Chunin. Iruka nods and digs through the pile of scrolls and finds the one he was looking for. He hands it to the Hokage, who thanks the young man and then tosses the scroll to Hayama. I hope that mission will suffice, and he receives a nod from Goro-sen. Please mark down Team 4 as having received the Nara mission. The Hokage orders. The Chunin on his left opened a book with mission records and recorded the information. When it was done, he closed the book back up and nodded to the elderly leader. May your mission be successful, Team 4, the Hokage says, dismissing them. Thank you Hokage-sama, all of Team 4 intoned as they bowed and left. None noticed the gaze the old man held on one particular member of the group. As Team 4 were leaving, they bumped into another team of genin, and their sensei also came to collect a mission. Hey there Suma. I didn't think you knew how to get out of bed before noon, Hayama joked with Team 10's sensei. Hahaha, real funny Hayama. You know how it is with missions around here. The good ones are all gone by then unless you're lucky, and knowing my luck we'd be stuck, having to chase the daimyo's wife cat around all day. Asuma responds. I don't understand why Lady Shijumi doesn't just buy a new cat that will put up with her loving ways, Hayama says. You don't have to tell me, man. I remember the daimyo asking her the same thing about that damn cat's predecessor, and well, he never asked again after the tongue lashing she gave him. The man is completely whipped by that woman. I don't really understand it myself, Asuma says after rubbing his beard a bit in thought. Talk like that some more, and I'm sure you'll find out. Especially if you ever finally land Red Eyes, and get her to give the old man another potential successor, Hayama responds with a grin. Yeah, you're just jealous because she would never give you the time of day, Hayama Asuma retorts. I respect Iki-san, as a fellow Konoha shinobi and comrade, but she's not my type, Hayama says quickly. Oh that's right, you prefer the domestic type. Speaking of which, how's Keith-san? Asuma asked with a smirk, as Hayama sputtered out a response. While the two genin were talking, the genin decided to catch up a little, as well. Hey Chimjai, Shika, and Ino. What are you guys doing here? Tamara asked excitedly. Getting a mission, Shikamaru responded, although his eyes never left Naruto. What mission did you guys get? Ino asked, fishing for information. Sensei's allowing us to take our first C-rank mission because we're so awesome. Tamara boasts. What, no way. Even Sasuke-kun hasn't gone on a C-rank yet. Ino shouted. I guess that shows just how awesome we are, right guys? Tamaru says, looking at his two teammates. Fuki just shrugged him off while Naruto looked non-committal about the whole thing. See, I knew you were lying, Tamaru. You'll never be better at anything than Sasuke-kun. Ino yelled at the boy. Guys, back me up here, come on please Naruto, just tell her how Sensei said how strong we were getting the other day. Please bro, help me out here. Ino-chan is so beautiful and fun. If she knew how much better I am now, I'm sure I could get her to go out with me, Tamaru pleaded. Fine, yes Sensei said that Tamaru here has improved the most out of all of us, and is well on his way to achieving his dream, Naruto says, shocking the gossip queen. And we have been given a C rank to complete a mission requested by Naruto. Tamaru quickly flashes a grin. See, I told you so, say Ino-chan. How would you like to go out with me sometime? Tamaru asked. No way, loser, I'd never go out with you, or anyone other than Sasuke-kun. Ino shouted. What? Why not? Tamaru asked. Because he's the only man worthy of my love and devotion, Ino says dreamily, as her thoughts drift to the Uchiha. While those two were busy with their drama, and with Fuki not caring about anything that was going on at the moment. Although Naruto could see, she was watching the drama between Tamaru and Ino out of the corner of her eye. I thought she was an Uchiha fangirl as well. I'm surprised she's not fighting with Ino over it, but now that I think about it, it was mostly Ino and that pink-haired girl Sakura. I think her name was, as Naruto thought before he was broken from them. What did your mission request say? Shikamaru suddenly asked. Naruto shrugged, haven't read it yet. I'm sure Sensei will tell us before, or when we get there. I am unaware of any mission requests being sent by my clan that would require anything above the D rank, Shikamaru says. Once again all Naruto could do was shrug. He then looked over at the last member of Team 10. You're Akimichi Chimjai, right? Naruto asked. The Akimichi boy shook his head yes. Your clans own most of the restaurants in the village, right? Naruto asked. Once again the pudgy genin nodded, as he continued to eat his potato chips. I have a little extra money on me, and was thinking of spending it on a nice meal. Where would you recommend I go? Naruto asked. At this, Chujai stopped eating and gave Naruto a penetrating stare, as if he was trying to look into his soul before his face softened. Depends, are you going by yourself or do you have a date? The Akimichi boy asked. Myself, Naruto answers. Fancy, exotic, or standard? Standard, I guess. Quality or quantity? Well, quality, but I'd like to have both if possible, Naruto responds. Are you a meat eater, leaf muncher, or varied? Varied, but I prefer meat. Then I recommend Yakiniku-Q, it's a Korean jitkaku-style yakiniku restaurant. We go there all the time. The pudgy genin says happily with a large smile. Oh, I think I've seen that place. Actually, I think I saw you there one day when I was going to train after our sensei let us off for the day, Naruto says. Yeah, I remember, Chujai says, and then looks at Shikamaru. At this point had turned away from everyone and seemed to be in his own world, but Chujai could tell his best friend was still looking intently at the blonde kid in front of him. Say you wouldn't want to hang out someday and try a few restaurants. It feels a little weird going to eat somewhere by yourself, you know? Naruto asked. Sure, anytime, Chujai responds. Cool, as thanks the first plate of ribs is on me, Naruto says. This of course was all he needed to say for Chujai to deem him as a cool guy and friend. Shikamaru could already feel his best friend leaving him for this overachiever. He couldn't let that happen, but he was saved by Team 4's sensei. Hey you three, let's go, we have a mission to complete. Say goodbye to your friends. I'll talk to you later, Asuma Hayama said, as he started to walk away. Sure, see you at the Jimin Lounge, Asuma said with a wave, and say hello to Ki-chan for me, Asuma called. Hayama stiffened slightly before calling to his team to hurry up and move even quicker to leave the building. See you Sunday, Chujai. Bye Yamanaka-san, Nara-san, Sarutobi-san, Naruto says before leaving. Come on Ino-chan, just one date please, Tamaru begged. No? Stop begging, it's pathetic, she said before stomping off, not acknowledging the rest of Team 4. Come on Tamaru, the blonde said. No, and we have a mission, Fuki tries. But, no buts, let's go, and with that Fuki dragged the boy out to join the rest of her team. Bye Naruto, see you Saturday. Chujai says excitedly with a wave. Ha, we're Team Asuma comments before moving to get his team's mission. Tamaru is such a pest. I don't know how Fuki puts up with him, Ino says loudly before following Asuma. I don't know, at least Naruto's cool, and Fuki didn't seem as bad as she used to be, Chujai says before following his sensei and blonde teammate. Shikamaru just stood at the doorway watching Team 4 walk away. He hadn't said anything, as it would have just been too troublesome, but he wasn't happy. Damn that Naruto. First he's all attentive and energetic, and now he's trying to get to Chujai. He probably wants to make him train and work out and do stuff. Not on my Uzumaki watch, not on my watch. I wouldn't let you corrupt my best friend and turn him into one of you. Even if I have to get up on Sunday to do it between naps, the Nara thought. Naruto and Team 4 made it to the Nara compound. It took them a minute to find someone willing to help them. They found most of the Nara men unable or unwilling to move enough to assist them with their mission or even explain what was going on. To their great relief, they bumped into Shikamaru's mother as she was coming from the market. After Team 4 helped her put her things away, she led them to the Nara forests where their mission would take place. Normally my husband or one of the clansmen tasked with caring for the deer here would explain the mission to you, but as you saw they are all just too lazy to actually go and request a mission, the lazy bastard, she says angrily. Team 4 tries not to laugh at the poor woman's misfortune, but only manages to keep it to a snicker. Sounds like the chief alright, Hayama remarks. Sighs, yes it does. I requested a team, because the last 2 mornings there have been deer carcasses found near the edge of the woods. We suspected maybe a pack of wolves or maybe a tiger or something preying on the deer. It shouldn't be too difficult, but no one here was willing to stay up tonight to watch for whatever is doing this, and stop it. Will your team be able to handle it? Yoshino Nara asks. It shouldn't be a problem. This is their first C rank, but I'll be with them in case it's something unexpected or they have trouble, Nara-san, Hayama responds. Okay, I'll trust you to do your jobs for them. Please be mindful of the deer, and try not to use many destructive devices in the forest. The deer here aren't skittish, but we depend on them staying on these lands, Yoshino informs them. We'll do our best, Nara-san, hopefully it won't be necessary, Hayama responds. I'll leave you to it then, thank you for your service, Yoshino says before leaving. Alright, we are going to set up camp in the middle of the forest, so that way if anything happens we won't be too far away, Hayama orders them. Team 4 moved deeper into the forest, finding what Hayama deemed as the middle sometime afternoon where the team then set up camp. Thankfully not knowing if the mission would be inside or outside of Konoha, the team had packed for either situation, and each had their own tent with enough supplies to last a week. Once the team had unpacked and set up their tents, Hayama unsealed some pre-cooked meat, and they all ate sandwiches. After they had all finished eating, Hayama addressed his genin. Alright, this is a hunting mission, a standard C-rank mission given to Chunin experienced genin, but I figured you guys could handle it. This will serve to introduce you to the real world of the shinobi. The part hidden from most civilians is the dark and bloody, sometimes brutal world we ninja operate in. I don't know if any of you have any experience with hunting, but our mission is to eliminate whatever is killing the Naruto deer at night. Can you handle it? Hayama asked them. Naruto immediately nodded, as he was used to hunting for food at times. Fuki took a bit of time, but she also nodded. She had never hunted before, but she was sure she could do it. Tomeru also quickly nodded. Like Fuki, he had never hunted, but he was also sure he could do it. After all, it's not like we'll be killing a human, they all thought. It was sad, but hunting animals for food, and sometimes sport, was natural. This wouldn't be for sport or food, but to protect another group of animals valuable to their community. They could do this. Hayama nodded, expecting them to want to continue if for no other reason than to complete their first slightly high-profile mission. Okay then, whatever is doing this is doing it at night, so for now rest up, and be prepared to stay up very late tonight. If you need to catch a nap in your tent for a few hours, any questions or comments? He asked them. Sensei, what if we have to use the bathroom? Tomeru asked. Then go into the woods far away from the campsite, dig a trench, and go if you have to squat, and remember to bury it before you leave. If it's dark, then take a flashlight with you, and be mindful of the deer. Hi, Sensei, but what do we use for toilet paper? Tomeru responded. Then use leaves or flat rock. I know this has the potential to be your first overnight mission, but you guys really should have learned all of this in survival training, Hayama says. Sorry, Sensei. It's okay, Tomeru. I would prefer you ask these things instead of not asking, and jeopardizing a mission, or getting yourself hurt, Hayama responds. Tomeru nodded, but he could tell the other two had been listening, as well. Anything else? He asked. He received 3 head shakes. Okay then, be ready at sundown, and until then relax a bit, Hayama says before walking into his tent to rest a bit. The 3 genin followed their leader's example, and also headed for their own individual tents. It just so happened Naruto was the first to crack, and needed to use the was, as he was finishing up covering the small trench with dirt and unused leaves, that he got the feeling he was being watched. He stood, and turned his body a full 360 degrees to try and find any movement in the brush. Unfortunately, there were too many trees and shrubbery, not to mention it was dusk now, so the available light was dimming. Naruto reached down into his kunai pouch secured to the waist of his pants, as he stood turning slowly. He turned sharply to his left to find nothing but the rustle of a few leaves. He relaxed, as the tension was slowly overwhelming him. But the feeling of being watched wasn't leaving him, and deciding he had enough, Naruto slowly made his way back towards the campsite. When he did, he met the eye of a deer that was standing in front of him. Oh, hey Mr. Deer. Was it you that was watching me? Naruto asked, feeling silly for getting so spooked. Of course the deer didn't respond, making him feel even dumber. He went to put away the kunai when he saw a bit of panic in the deer's eyes, and turned to find an impossibly large tiger bearing down on him. It gave off a loud deafening roar, causing the deer to run, and birds to rise into the sky, causing more noise, as they squawked and screeched into the darkening sky. Acting on reflex, Naruto used his Jinten release to move from his spot, as the tiger barreled through the area he was just occupying. His movement was so instantaneous the tiger didn't have time to react before Naruto flung his kunai at the oversized beast, hitting it dead in the neck. The tiger could do little more than collapse, as it suffocated on its own blood. Naruto stood watching a little detached, as he watched the beast die. It wasn't until his team showed up that he snapped out of it. Naruto, are you alright? Hayama asked. Yeah, I'm alright, Sensei, Naruto slowly responded. What happened here? Hayama asked. I don't know. I was just finishing up after defecating when I felt something watching me. I thought it was a deer that had somehow gotten behind me when I sensed a panic, and turned to find this tiger attacking me from my blind side. I managed to move out of the way, and out of reflex threw a kunai I was holding at it when it collapsed, Naruto answered. Hayama turned to look at the tiger again. I'm glad you're alright, Naruto. It seems like somehow this thing escaped from training ground 44, where the giant tigers are kept locked in, Hayama informs them. Damn, I bet it was Anko. She probably forgot to lock the gate behind her after her latest visit to that place. She can be so clueless sometimes. How many times does the Hokage have to warn her about the standard safety protocols in place about that area? I don't understand why he allows her such leeway with that place anyway, Hayama goes on a rant in his mind. Giant tigers. Tomeru shouted, why would Konoha have a place that has giant tigers? He asked shakily. He received no answer. Fuki stood beside Naruto watching him, and then glancing at the tiger, wondering how he managed to kill it so quickly. They had run here, as soon as they heard the roar, thinking the beast had come back before dark to kill more deer. Imagine their surprise when they see their teammate standing next to a giant tiger corpse, lying in a large pool of apparently its own blood. Hayama checked to make sure it was dead, then sealed it in a scroll. It wasn't common knowledge, but some people thought certain tiger body parts held medicinal or other value. He was sure Nara would be interested in his corpse. Alright team, it seems like our mission might have been completed, but just in case there are more of them, we'll continue with the stakeout, as planned. Meanwhile, at the Nara residence, Nara Shikamaru had just come home, after spending the afternoon hanging with Shinji trying to get him to forget meeting up with the blonde Uzumaki. He had no luck, as the Akimichi seemed excited about spending Sunday with his nemesis. He had even decided to come home a little early after his last failure at getting Shinji to change his mind, something that rarely happened. "Hey mom, I'm home," Shikamaru called out quietly, hoping she wouldn't hear him. "Welcome home, Shika. I'm in the kitchen. Come sit down and talk to me," Nara Yoshino called to her son. "Troublesome," Shikamaru says. "What was that?" Yoshino called. "Mom," Shikamaru quickly responded. Shikamaru sat and pretended to listen, as his mom prattled on about this, that, and nothing he cared about. Shikamaru, Nara Shikamaru. "Are you listening to me?" Yoshino shouted. "Yeah mom, I'm listening," Shika responded. "Then what did I just say?" she asked angrily. Shika found it best not to even try lying. "I thought so. Sai, why can't you be like that nice Uzumaki boy?" she scolds. This instantly caught his attention, as he focused in on his mother, which creeped her out a bit at the unusual intensity at which he was looking at her. "Did you say Uzumaki, as in Uzumaki Naruto?" he asked. "Yes, he was here to do the mission I requested a team for, and no one here would get off their butt long enough to help him. I had some groceries with me, and Naruto-kun asked if I needed any help. I tried to tell him I was okay, but he insisted he should help me. He was such a kind young man, and even asked me questions about my day, and what I do. We talked a bit, as he and his team helped me put everything away, and when I led them to the forest to tell them about the mission." Shikamaru for a brief second flashed red, as he squeezed his fists, feeling like he wanted to punch something or someone. You should get to know him. That young man had a good head on his shoulders, and he was so polite. Honestly, you could really stand to be a little more like him, Shika. At this point, Shikamaru turned and walked away, ignoring his mother calling for him to come back. "Damn you, Uzumaki, even in my own home I can't escape you now." "That's it, this requires action," Shikamaru thought, as he grinned darkly. In the morning, Team 4 went to the Nara clan head's house to report in. Team 4 had stayed up all night watching over the deer, and occasionally checking the forest for more tigers, but when the sun came up there was nothing extra to report. When they consulted the Nara about what happened, they were surprised to find they had suspected all along. It was a tiger that somehow escaped training ground 44. The mission was stamped complete, and they went back to the assignment desk, and turned in their report, and received their pay. Hayama in the report gave Naruto extra credit for actually killing the beast, along with the bonus they received from the Naruto, who were indeed interested in harvesting the carcass of the tiger. With that done, Team 4 went their separate ways, with Hayama giving them the day off. As Naruto walked home to get some more rest before he would do more training later in the day, he thought back on the mission. He swore that even throughout the night he kept feeling as though something was periodically watching him. It was weird and unnerving, but it had stopped as soon as they left the Nara compound, so he shrugged it off as nothing important. Unknown to Naruto, he had indeed been watched or stalked all night, and was still being stalked. The tiger had not been the actual predator preying on the Nara deer. The tiger that attacked him when it did had unintentionally given the predator that had been preying on the deer an alibi. It would avoid the deer for now, as it didn't want to draw any attention to itself just yet. Besides, there were other easier creatures to hunt if it needed to. But now it was on the scent of another kind of prey. A very interesting creature from what it saw in the forest. If what he saw was real, then perhaps its own mission was finally over. It stood watching the boy walk home, and planned on how to test its quarry soon, very soon. It was Monday. Naruto did indeed meet up with Shinji on Sunday, as they talked about. Surprisingly, Shikamaru also decided to tag along. Naruto wasn't sure, but he was getting the distinct impression that the Nara heir didn't like him. Aside from Shikamaru, the Akimichi and Uzumaki got along famously. They hit up 3 different eateries: Yakiniku, Ichiraku Ramen, and Amaguriyama. All in all, even with the sour Nara tag along, it was a nice afternoon. He and Shinji had even made plans to hang out again in a few weeks, if their teams weren't on missions. Speaking of missions, Team 4 was back to lame D ranks. Of course, Naruto hadn't expected to completely ditch doing D ranks. There were simple missions, and the money didn't hurt. Still, he had hoped they would get another C rank after completing the first one in only one night. Hayama did promise they would take another C rank at the end of the week. Until then, it was back to focusing on his training and D ranks. He had already completed the first step of water manipulation by drawing water from a leaf, but Hayama informed him that he should try to draw water from different objects before moving to the second step. Naruto was proud to say that so far he had gotten further in chakra manipulation than his 2 teammates, but they were making progress, and would get it in time. Hayama though knew how tough an exercise it was, and only allowed them 30 minutes every 2 days of team practice time to work on it, insisting they should focus on their more basic skills, instead for the time being, until they gained more experience. Naruto had mostly gotten so far, because he made sure to do an hour every day, either in the morning, when there was still morning dew on the ground, or in the afternoon. It was now after team training, and they had just completed their mission for the day. They pulled weeds, and planted flowers. Naruto was admittedly surprised to find out that Fuki likes to garden. When he told her he also liked to garden a little, but wasn't very good at it, they began talking about their own little gardens despite Naruto not actually owning a garden, and more of a few potted plants being watered. He actually told Fuki his dream was to someday own a large house with a huge backyard, so that he can have his own garden and training space. They didn't get too far, because Tamaru butted in telling them about how he also wanted a big house to call his own, because he was tired of sharing his space with all his brothers and sisters. Hayama just smiled watching his team getting along and working together. He was admittedly worried when he picked his team about their dynamics. He knew Fuki used to be a bully, and Tamaru was a bit good, not to mention loud. He didn't know what to make of Naruto initially, and didn't think this team would pass his test, but he was glad they did. Hayama couldn't imagine a better team, and he was looking forward to the monthly meeting with the other Chunin, where he would rub in how well his team was doing. Hours later Naruto was alone, and heading back to his team's training ground to do some afternoon training. He wanted to work some more on his elemental manipulation, and along with his afternoon exercises. So the first thing he decided to do was his laps. Unknown to Naruto, watching him from a suitable distance was the creature that had killed the Nar deer. It had stalked him since that night, gathering information and finding out his capabilities. Now it was ready to make its move. After completing 10 laps, Naruto positioned his hands in the familiar boar hand seal and took off, mentally intoning Jinten. Muaishim, swift release. Shadowless flight. That is when the creature also took off at speeds that made it look like a streak of lightning, which for those crossing its path, shocked them greatly. It brought up memories of the Yondaime to most witnessing the impromptu race, which they didn't know was a race. For they couldn't see Naruto at all, almost like he was invisible when he used the technique. The creature, despite moving at speeds close to the speed of light, wasn't, and was giving quite the show, especially to passing shinobi, including a certain green spandex wearing Taijutsu duo that tried to enter the race. They were quickly lost, and then lapped almost instantly, making them remove their weights and release a few gates in an attempt to keep up with whatever was moving so fast. Lee was quickly dropped in the race, finding it impossible to keep up at the speed his sensei was moving at to get close to whatever it was. He tried to call out to Guy, but even his voice failed him, as he lay face down on the ground. Guy himself wasn't faring much better than Lee. He prided himself on his speed, stamina, and endurance, but at the rate whatever in front of him was traveling, he couldn't keep up. It can't be human, the tiring Chunin thought. He had already been lapped by the creature several times, and he had released his weights a minute ago. He just couldn't keep going like this. Even his chakra was starting to fail him. He finally collapsed after being passed several more times. I have failed you, my precious Lee-kun. Youth wasn't enough. The man shouted. Strangely, he had crumpled right beside his student, who was also lamenting his failure loudly. It took several more minutes for Naruto to come to a stop, but just as he did, he was tackled from behind, sending him flying forward awkwardly, as he tried to gather himself. Before he could though, he was slammed into again, and knocked across the ground in a different direction. This happened several more times, as he fell. Clawed scratches and bite marks pierced his skin. And they were getting close to vital areas like his neck and groin. Changing tactics, used his hands to spring up from the ground. This forced the creature to leap at him, which also slowed it down. Quickly forming the tiger hand seal, Naruto created a Mizubunshin to take the attack for him, and then quickly flashed the boar hand seal to appear on the other side of the clearing. When the beast killed the water clone, it landed on the now wet ground facing Naruto. Now that they were both standing still, Naruto was able to get a good look at the animal. He'd never seen anything like it though. It was a little taller at the shoulder than even the biggest of the Onizuka dogs he had seen, but it was really thin, with a golden spotted coat, short muzzle, elongated back, short but deadly looking canine teeth, deep chest, narrow waist, and a long heavy looking tail. Naruto had seen when it attacked that the tail was used like some sort of rudder at times when it needed to turn sharply. In short, it was a beautiful tall thin cat. "What are you?" Naruto asked out loud. He did not know why he said that out loud. He certainly didn't expect it to answer him. "I am what humans used to call a cheetah," the cat answered. "A cheetah? Are you a summoned animal?" Naruto asked. "Yes, but how did you know?" it replied. "Well, this village is sort of famous for bloodlines, and its many summon contracts." "I've never heard of a cheetah summoning contract though," Naruto says. "I would be surprised if you had. Then again, I'm surprised you are not jumping around like an idiot, because I can talk when the cheetah responds." "Why are you attacking me?" Naruto shrugged off the comment. "I'm not attacking you. I'm testing you to see if you are worthy enough to become the first summoner of my clan," the cat says. That was interesting. He would be the first to have this new contract, and no one knew about it. It was too perfect. "Why are you testing me?" "I'm sure there are other much stronger ninjas out there that would suit your clan," Naruto asks. "Perhaps, but you are the first I have come across that fits the main requirement the chief told me to find in a summoner," it replies. Naruto asks. "To be faster than the speed of light." "You're the first I have found that can outrun me at top speed," the cat answers. "Well, did I pass?" Naruto asks. "You did," the cheetah answered. "Now what?" Naruto asks. In response, the creature relaxed its stance and started hacking like it was trying to cough up a furball or something. It was kind of disgusting. When it finally coughed up a large scroll, Naruto really didn't want to go near it, but reluctantly walked over, as the summons used its paw to unravel the large roll of parchment. Prick your finger to gather some blood, and then use it to write your name on the first line it directed. Naruto did as told, using a kunai to puncture 3 fingers on his right hand. Now prick your hand, and gather blood so you can form a handprint, and then place it next to your signature, the cheetah says. Naruto does, as the summons says. When he's done, he looks at the scroll, and realizes that he is indeed the first one to have the contract. Is it it? Naruto asked. That's it. I'm glad I found you, Uzumaki-san. It took a long time before I found you, and I am ready to go back home, the cat remarks. Wait, how do I summon you guys? Naruto asks. To summon us, prick the hand you used to sign the contract again to create an offer of blood. Then do the hand seals boar dog bird monkey ram to mold your chakra correctly, and finally place the hand you used to sign the contract on the area you wish to summon us. The amount of chakra you use will determine the power of the summon, the cheetah informs him. How do I summon you? Naruto asked. I can't tell you that, Uzumaki-san, as you are a first summoner, will be learning as much as you do about the process. I suggest starting off using a low amount of chakra, and then gradually build up until you summon me. I warn you though that some of my kind can be skittish, and might run away or attack before you can talk to them, it tells him. Thank you for explaining that to me, and the warning, Naruto replies. It's fine, do you need anything else? The cheetah summons. No, but can you tell me your name before you leave? Naruto asks. The cheetah looks at Naruto questioningly for a few seconds, and answers. My name is Saburo. I look forward to working with you in the future, Uzumaki-san, the summons says before disappearing. Naruto stood in the clearing for a few moments, digesting what just happened to him when he broke out in a broad smile. I have a summoning contract, Naruto says to himself. This was big stuff. As far as he knew, only Chunin or experienced Chunin were able to summon. He had never heard of a genin summoner, although it was possible there were others. He felt like trying it out right away, but remembered he still had his elemental exercise to work on first, not to mention his chakra control exercises, weapon training, taijutsu training, and he wanted to practice the ninjutsu he knew as well before heading home to rest. Looking at his shirt and pants, he could also see he would need to replace or repair those as well. They were riddled with claw marks and tooth holes from where he was scratched and bitten. He was just glad Saburo didn't have larger teeth. Deciding to work on his summoning technique later, he got back to work, starting with his taijutsu training. If only he knew that could create multiple copies of himself to cut down on the workload. 3 days later, Team 4 stood at their designated training ground ready for instruction. Hayama decided today would be a heavy training day, so no missions. So far they had reviewed the 3 basic chakra control exercises, including battle simulations on trees and water for an hour. Then they worked more on their elemental manipulation. And after that they all practiced something that had been neglected of late during team training, but it showed that the kids had worked on it in their own time after practice, as Hayama could see definite improvement. Lastly, he had them review their taijutsu, and before giving them a break. This time it was Tamaru's choice, and he had a massive sweet tooth, so they went to the dango shop. When they entered, the genin noted Hayama was acting suspiciously, like he didn't want to go in the shop, but upon entering he relaxed. Naruto had the nikidango, which was a type of meatball, and a bowl for dessert. Tamaru ordered the Gomez-style dango with a side order of chichi dango. Fuki had the Hanami-style dango, and a bowl of, while Hayama had the chidango or green tea-flavored dango, and a bowl of. Now that they were rested and full, Hayama decided to teach them something new. What I am going to show you now is a technique called chakra flow. The chakra flow technique refers to both the flowing of chakra through an object, as well as any technique that increases the potency of a weapon by flowing chakra through it. There are some techniques that use chakra flow to enhance the body as well, but that is very advanced stuff that you shouldn't try until you master your element. Now, watch how I use the chakra flow technique to enhance the sharpness and piercing ability of this kunai, Hayama says. The 3 genin watch as Hayama takes out a kunai and pushes his chakra through it, converting it into wind nature. Each genin noted there was a noticeable hum coming from the technique as it enveloped the kunai. When Hayama-sensei threw the weapon, the genin were practically in awe, as it not only punched a huge hole through one tree, but several. Whoa, you've got to teach me that, sensei, Tamaru shouted. Despite the volume of their teammate Naruto and Fuki couldn't help but be equally excited. Now calm down. Tamaru, this technique is perfect for wind users, but Fuki and Naruto, each element reacts differently to the use of this technique. I know that for earth users like Fuki, the technique hardens weapons of the body. Aiwa in particular uses chakra flow to harden their bodies until they are as hard as steel, but the same can be done for weapons, making it an ultimate defensive technique. Unfortunately, Naruto, I don't know what effect this may have with water nature, as none has been noted before. However, you also have wind and nature like me and Tamaru. You could practice the technique using your wind nature, but without completing the leaf cutting exercise with your wind chakra, it will be very difficult for you, Hayama instructs. Naruto nodded at the information. I'll begin working on the leaf cutting exercise first, sensei, but if you could also give me the second step of water manipulation, I would like that as well, sensei, Naruto asks. Alright, why don't you go over to that tree and gather some leaves to begin practicing with while I start Tamaru and Fuki on the chakra flow technique, Hayama orders. Naruto nods and heads off to begin practicing. It was half an hour later before Hayama caught up with him. When Hayama looked at Naruto's progress, he noted that he had already managed to produce notable cuts on the sides of the leaf. Good job, Naruto-kun, it looks like it won't take you long to get this down, either, Hayama praises. Thank you, sensei, for some reason this feels a lot easier than when I worked on the first stage of water manipulation, Naruto says. Hayama nodded at the information. It would seem Naruto had a more powerful connection to the wind than he initially thought. Do you want me to give you the second step to water manipulation, or do you want to continue working on leaf cutting? Hayama asks. In response, Naruto stops what he is doing and sets the pile of leaves aside as he stands up. The second step of water manipulation, as I understand it, is to manipulate the flow of water in a lake by making it turn clockwise around you, creating a whirlpool, Hayama informs the young teen. Thank you, sensei. I think I'll continue to work on the leaf cutting exercise first before trying it, Naruto says. Hayama nodded and said, alright, if you need my help I'll be with Tamaru and Fuki, but before I go I wanted to give you this. It's a scroll on a C-rank water technique called Sujin Mizrapu. It is considered a basic technique of water manipulation, and very versatile, having many variations. The hand seals are dragon tiger hair, Hayama directs. Naruto takes the scroll and thanks his sensei again before going back to work on the leaf cutting exercise. He really wanted to learn the chakra flow technique, as it was obviously very powerful, practical, and useful. He also wanted to try it with his water release. Several days later, Team 4 was still working on learning chakra flow. Naruto had gotten the hang of the leaf cutting exercise in record time, finishing it that night after Hayama had released them from training. He showed his sensei the next day, and began working with Tamaru on using his wind nature to enhance the piercing and cutting power of a kunai. Fuki was also working hard on strengthening a kunai with her earth nature chakra. This was made more difficult by Hayama not knowing how to help her, although he was able to ask another Chunin friend of his for tips that would help her. By Friday afternoon, each Chunin could coat a kunai with their chakra, but were still working on prolonging and strengthening the effects of using chakra flow. Naruto and Tamaru, as usual, were competing fiercely against each other, but Hayama made sure to keep their competition friendly and productive. He reminded all of them that this was something most shinobi didn't try until after they became Chunin, if not Chunin. Naruto had also started on the second water manipulation technique, but now that he was splitting his time between both wind manipulation and water, his progress had slowed some. It also made it hard to work on his other training, most notably in extending his usage of his bloodline technique. The odd thing was, the better his wind manipulation became, the more explosive he felt when using it in his takeoff. He had also slacked off some on his summon training, not that he minded. He was having trouble summoning something other than cubs. The couple of times he got what he learned were termed sibling groups. Young cheetahs considered old enough to be on their own, but would stay with their siblings for a while until striking out on their own. He also learned that even the cheetahs that didn't talk were very vocal and expressive, with a somewhat complex method of communication that gave them a great social system, despite sometimes living far distances from one another. Unfortunately, all this training meant he had little time for anything else, including friends. If it wasn't during team time, he would often disappear before Tamaru or Fuki had a chance to ask him anything. His behavior was a bit alarming to his sensei, but he saw how hard the blonde worked during team training, so he figured he was probably doing some on his own time. Hayama decided he would look into it if it continued too much longer. He didn't want the kid to burn out like so many talented kids before him. Burnout was an especially troublesome issue for ninjas. That could wait, because now Team 4 was standing in front of the Hokage ready to receive their second C-rank mission. Sure, Kuma-san, I hear you are requesting another C-rank for your team, the Hokage asks. Yes, Hokage-sama, thanks to Naruto the last one ended before it could really begin, and I don't feel they got enough experience. I was hoping we could receive another one close to the village, Hayama replies. Iruka, do we have a C-rank mission available that is near the village? He asked. No, Hokage-sama, most of the C-ranks have already been distributed to the more experienced genin teams. There are 3 available. One is a protection mission to Wave, another is a bandit elimination near Tanzakugai, and the last time actually this is nearby, just half a mile or so outside the village. A family is being terrorized by a large bear, and they are requesting a team to kill it, Iruka says. We'll take the last one, Hayama says. Very well, here's the mission request scroll. Good luck on your mission, Team 4, the Hokage says. Team 4 bows to the elderly leader, and then leaves, passing by a drunk old man who really reeked of booze, even to Fuki and Tamaru, whose noses were the least sensitive. Team 4 quickly took their leave, glad to get away from the drunk, and pitied the team that got saddled with that old man. 2 days later, Team 4 was once again returning from a successful and quick mission. Hayama basically stood and watched as his genin made short work of the rogue bear. Funny thing was, it turned out to be a summons, and they chose Fuki, who incapacitated the bear with an earth chakra infused punch to his head, to be their new summoner. Hayama couldn't be prouder of his team with how fast they were progressing. Actually, it was starting to become a little ridiculous. He now had a genin summoner, something that hadn't happened since the Sannin. He heard the Chunin exam was being held in Konoha this year. He was strongly considering nominating his team, but he really wanted them to wait a full year before reaching for a promotion. Meanwhile, the genin were talking among themselves. More accurately, Tomeru was pestering Fuki about how the bears chose her. Of course, Fuki didn't answer him, and merely smirked at his frustration. She proudly displayed the summoning tattoo on her bicep that she received from the bear that was the holder of the contract. Not getting what he wanted from Fuki, Tomeru turned to Naruto, hoping he would share in his frustration. "Can you believe those stupid bears chose Fuki over me or you?" he shouted. "Let it go, Tomeru. The bears told us why they chose Fuki, plus after the way she knocked out that other one. I think they were afraid she'd do the same to them," Naruto jokes. This didn't lessen Tomeru's jealousy or anger at all. "Come on, Naruto, you know I would be a better summoner than Fuki. I can just imagine summoning one of these big brutes to rip apart some bad guy while I rescue the princess and save the country. He would do anything I wanted him to, and then I would become Hokage, because they would recognize my strength." Tomeru rants. Naruto just let him go on his rant as they walked on. He did steal glances at Fuki, who was also ignoring Tomeru, who was now talking about how he would get a summon much cooler than stupid old bears. Fuki's strength had greatly surprised him. He didn't know she was that strong or able to pull off whatever move that was she pulled on the bear. It made him realize that maybe he had started to discount his own teammates' abilities. Hayama-sensei was obviously a very strong shinobi, and a good teacher to have gotten them as far as he had in such a short amount of time. Fuki could punch out a bear, and showed great control with her techniques. Even Tomeru, despite being somewhat childish, displayed a startling amount of cunning and battlefield tactics, plus a quick mind in the battle against the raging bear. Naruto really felt lucky to be a part of this team. It was starting to feel like family. "Hey Fuki," Naruto said, catching the girl's attention. "Maybe you shouldn't tell anyone you have a summon contract yet," Naruto says. Fuki and Tomeru looked at him quizzically, as did Hayama, as he was curious about why a genin would consider hiding such a potentially powerful technique instead of bragging their asses off. "Why?" Fuki asked. Naruto's response wasn't verbal. Instead, he stopped gathering chakra into his right hand, used the proper hand seals, and then slammed his hand on the ground in front of him. "Kuchi's no jutsu," Naruto called out. In front of Naruto sat a cheetah cub a few months old. Naruto had purposely summoned him because he liked his coloring, which was white and black with amber eyes. He also liked that the cub had a serious personality despite still being young. "Naruto-sama, why have you summoned me?" questioned the cub. "Sorry Fayu, I was showing my team that I could summon you guys," Naruto explains. "Do you have any meat?" Fayu asked. "No, not on me, but I'll summon you again when I get home, okay?" Naruto asked. "Sure Naruto-sama," replied the cub said before poofing back to the grasslands. "Naruto, what was that?" Hayama asked. "I can summon the cheetah clan, Hayama-sensei," Naruto responds. "Since when?" Tomeru butted in. "About 5 days ago," Naruto answered. "Why didn't you tell us?" Fuki asked. "I didn't want anyone to know," Naruto says truthfully. "Why?" Hayama asked. "Because, when people don't know you can do things, they will underestimate you, and think you are weak. If an enemy thinks you are weak, then they will underestimate you, and give you the advantage in a fight. I learned that keeping the full extent of your abilities secret makes people underestimate you, and makes things easier," Naruto explains. Hayama nodded. It was fairly good reasoning, too good for a rookie genin. Naruto was still as much a mystery now as he was when he first received the team. "Can you summon anything bigger than fire?" Hayama asked. "Sometimes, but I can't do it consistently yet," Naruto answered truthfully. "Okay Naruto, well, summoning is a very powerful and rare technique. Not just everyone gets a contract, as the summon clans tend to be picky about who they let summon them. That said, if you want to keep yours a secret for now, I won't report it to the Hokage, but I suggest you tell him at some point," Hayama responds seriously. "Hi sensei. Fuki, it's your choice if you want people to know you are a summoner yet. I have to admit, part of why I am allowing Naruto to keep this a secret is because people will target you if they find out you have a contract, thinking they can take it for themselves. If you want some time to think about it, I can hold off on reporting it to Hokage-sama for a few days," Hayama tells her. Fuki nodded. "Thank you sensei. I would like some time to think about it, and maybe ask the bears what they think." "Very well. Now Tomeru, that means you can't blurt it out or tell anyone about this. I need you to respect your teammates' wishes," Hayama orders. "Hi sensei, but it's not fair. Why am I the only one without a summon contract?" Tomeru shouted. If it makes you feel any better, Tamara-kun, I don't have a summon contract, Hayama says. Thanks sensei, but it really doesn't help, Tamara responds. Team 4 made good time running back to the village, arriving a little after 3:30 in the afternoon. When they arrived at the Hokage Tower, they were sent right in only to find Team 7, plus the drunk they had passed after receiving their mission. Hokage-sama, should we come back later? Hayama asked. I told my secretary to let you in, Hayama. I take it the mission was a success, the Hokage responds. Yes, Hokage-sama, my team took care of Mrs. Sasaki's bear trouble with no problem, Hayama says, handing the Hokage the signed mission request with payment inside. Good, good. Now I have called you in here, because the mission Team 7 recently went on was a sham. The client here lied on his mission request form. It seems he's being targeted for assassination by a very rich individual with connections to the criminal underground named Gaten. Gaten has hired ninja to kill Tazuna, and Team 7 was able to subdue two Chunin-level missing nin that attempted to carry out the assassination. After questioning Tazuna-san and finding out the truth, they decided to abandon the mission and return to Konoha. Tazuna decided to return with them and plead his case, asking for another chance. He has agreed to pay a penalty for his deception and refiled his request with the proper ranking. Payment is to be deferred until such time as he or his village are able to, with a grace period of 1 year. The team is being told this because I would like for Team 4 to go with Team 7 and finish this mission. Do you accept this mission? The Hokage asks. Hayama knew his team could handle this mission, and if things went bad, he and Kakashi were not made nin for novelty. Kakashi was perhaps the strongest ninja currently in the village when he was serious, and it sounded as if his team wasn't bad either. Just to be sure though, he looked at each member of his squad to see their reaction, and was pleased to see they looked eager and ready to go despite just coming back from a mission. Team 4 accepts the mission assignment, Hokage-sama, Hayama replies. Very well, then due to your team's recent return from a mission, I am sure Tazuna-san won the object if you all begin bright and early tomorrow after you have better prepared yourselves, the Hokage says. Tazuna wisely shook his head and said thank you to the Hokage. Then I will allow Haddock-san and Shirakumo-san to discuss the details among themselves. You are dismissed. Kakashi, Hayama, stay for a moment, would the Hokage direct you? The genin of Team 4 and 7 left the office with the client, whom Team 4 could tell had sobered up some since they first saw him. When the genin and Tazuna left, the Hokage turned to the two genin. The Hokage snapped his finger and 3 Anbu members dropped to the ground. A boar, bird, and cat masked by Anbu all dropped down in front of the Hokage. Kakashi, Hayama, I will be sending these 3 to shadow your teams during this mission. I am sure that by now Gaten has learned of the failure to kill Tazuna-san. He will most likely up his attempts to kill him, and thus the danger of this mission is unknown. They will not interfere or reveal themselves unless your teams encounter trouble that they or you cannot handle. They are also running independently of your mission, as they have their own orders. You are not to interact with them or make your teams aware of them unless they choose to show themselves. Is that understood? The Hokage asks. Yes, Hokage-sama, both men responded. But you are dismissed. Both genin leave the office immediately through different means. Your mission is to shadow and observe. When you return, I want a detailed report on your analysis of the genin, especially Uzumaki Naruto. You are not to interfere unless Naruto or the Uchiha are near death. Do you understand your mission? The 3 Anbu nodded before leaving to prepare. The Hokage sat in his chair thinking over recent events. Team 4's growth was alarming, considering how average their reports coming out of the academy were. Then there was the incident 5 days ago. He was still fielding inquiries into what exactly Guy was chasing around. The civilians were convinced the Yellow Flash had returned. And Guy had put his team on leave, as he conducted his own search for whatever it was that managed to escape him. The Hokage knew that whatever happened involved Naruto, it had to, but that led to some trouble, and some questions. The only thing he knew was he needed answers. Just what have you been doing, Naruto-kun?
That's it for today guys. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, then subscribe to our channel. See you in the next part of this video. Till then, sayonara.